How many of you have connected your phone into social network and put pictures in the cloud? Everybody. So you see, this is the difference. So this is the proof of concept that in the future will be not so far in our houses. So it's very easy to integrate the scale in the flooring. So we usually are, humans, we usually have cycles, and we always use the same routines every day. So it's very easy to put the scale in the place that you always wash your hands and take measurements of that one. And this mirror, the idea of this mirror is that it will reflect your measurements, your vital signs, and give you messages every day according to your sleep quality or to your behavior, collecting data from the cloud. So I came a little bit late because I have another meeting, but the idea was to connect this one and make a live demo of the system, but unfortunately I didn't have the opportunity to do that. But it works, believe me. I mean, we have it in the lab. You're more than welcome to come and visit and see the demonstration of the smart mirror with connected devices. So we have scales, we have bands, we have also the blood pressure and heart rates. Unfortunately, it's happening what I was expecting, so the formats are changed, so the types will be a little bit awkward, but just follow with me the presentation and I will try to explain what is in the slides. So basically, the healthcare, health and well-being has been explained already. I will not emphasize too much on this one. I will focus more into the evolution of those systems nowadays. Also some trends and some aspects in terms of analytics, because we are researchers, we are working into the future systems. And I will define or will describe one of the projects that we are already working since 18 months. So basically the well-being is characterized by these factors. Equally they are a balance. In each of them, humans we rely, and we have some imbalance on all of them, and in any of them, all the other ones are affected. It's not that are optional to our well-being. So this is one of the well-being aspects. And of course, there are similarities and differences between healthcare, well-being, and health. So health is a preservation of the human condition to be well, while well-being are the conditions that maintain this health. And healthcare, as we know, is a prescription or a function that has been already one that we have disease detections or we have already problems. So in this loop or in this process is when we come with some ideas of how we can keep this health in a good level. And in this respect, there are many initiatives in Europe which are called nowadays AHA, Active and Healthy Aging. So it's one of the new trends since a few years back in the research community. Now is going into society aspects, and in future, very few short term will go into the industry. So at the moment we have a lot of devices, a lot of applications, a lot of apps, a lot of devices that can be considered as gadgets, but none of them are in somehow certified to be medical approved. And this is one of the problems with the policy and the applications. Very few of them, and they're in the hospitals. And they are very difficult to access if you are not prescribed already to go there. So that's why I was given an example of an analogy where these devices will be and the evolution of these devices will be impacting. The context of this idea is coming from a European project which is involved 49 partners. It's a huge project, 25 million, the total budget, and involves stakeholders from citizens in hospitals, citizens in the streets, citizens in aging time, but also industry that will transform and innovate towards this data and technologies. It's a well-dispersed project in 9 countries, Spain, Greece, Italy, France, Germany, Switzerland, Ireland, and Finland. And in all of them we have what we call deployment sites. A deployment site is not more than a demonstrator with real people, with real users of the technology, with real cases in hospitals or in homes. And we promote or we defeat the solution of problems. It's an innovation action. It's not only research. We focus in also solving problems, real problems. And most of the problems are coming from the real demands. So we are in the phase 2 of the project, which is 18 months after, and we have run towards requirements collection, surveys collection, exercising in terms of interacting, co-creative environments, workshops, and we have collect these use cases. So from daily activity monitoring, like could be at your van, to more integrated care for chronic conditions, diabetes or leukemia, on all diseases that are already in control but has to be monitored every day on a daily basis. Monitoring outside home, this is for aging people that has been left alone by situations like not family not member family, or not companions or not partners, and then they have to be cared or they have to be observed in all the time. Remember, it's before you are prescribed with any problem or any condition. We want just to improve the quality of life. Exercise promotion is coming as well from the use case that people are now more conscious, or we are more conscious about our health status, and then we are taking more care of our bodies. So in the past, the doctors were those gods that in somehow, when I feel bad, I go to them and receive some prescription and help. But today we are helping ourselves in taking better lifestyle, taking a better type of food, better conditions for activities, and the promotion of exercising is also a medicine. So it's one of the aspects that we are promoting in this use case. Exercise is medicine, or activity is medicine. The other one is cognitive stimulation. So we know that the main organ in our bodies is the brain, and the brain also needs to be maintained in the maximum capacity. That's why we have this cognitive stimulation as a use case. And the social isolation comes more from the well-being aspects of not being part of a social community. And when I say social community, I don't refer to social networks, which is online. I'm talking about this human interaction that in somehow is missing and is losing from year to year, which is also part of the well-being that I presented at the beginning, which is an element for us, for humans to be part of these conditions. The safety, comfort, and security at home relates to these emergency situations. If you are aging, you might have a felt in-house, and you might not be even able to dial 911 or 181 according to your country emergency number. And for that one, we are coming with some solutions to solve these situations that are important. And last but not least is also transportation and mobility in the cities. So how this mobility can be efficiently done and can help the conditions in health and healthcare. So that means stress reduction, that means efficiency into the connections and the systems, and losing in time with connections and all these aspects. How we are going to do this innovation and improvements? Of course, we are technologists, we are scientists, and we know that technology in somehow that are viable, or we are developing more technologies. We are engaging with industries that will have or are providing the technology, and even they are promoting to invest in new technologies to have precisely answers to all these use cases in different locations. Of course, it's not a matrix of one to everyone. Every country has their own technology provider, every country has their own problems to solve, and every country has their own stakeholders. It's not the same to have people aging in Spain that people aging in Finland. Last year I made the same example, and I will do the same this time because I just came back from Norway. In Norway now they are having 26 degrees and they are dying of heat wave because this is very unusual for them. And in Spain or in Bilbao, they are having 22 degrees, which is very unusual for them as well. So these conditions are not the same in every country, and what is healthy for one people in the south of Europe is completely different in the north of Europe. Finnish people used to go make a hole in the ice and just jump into the freezing water for health issues. I think we as a Spanish people, Spaniards, we go and do this one and we will never come out from the hole. But this is kind of the health conditions that we are going to support with technology. So it has been mentioned by Martin already, Internet of Things. So I think now everybody knows about the concept. Maybe the meaning is still under development to impact the society. But remember 10 years ago when we were talking about cloud infrastructures. Everybody was saying, like, what is cloud? Me, my pictures, my information in the cloud, in one server, what is the cloud? And nowadays everybody uses it. It's implicit, it's the back-end technology is background. So IoT came to stay or will go like this technology. So it will be a back-end technology either from the device perspective, from the infrastructure, from the platform, or as simple as from the data perspective. And this is what the easiest way for me to explain the Internet of Things. Nevertheless, in the context of active and healthy aging, IoT has been specialized. IoT can fit many domains, like industry, the 4.0, like manufacturing in terms of the distribution of products. But in healthcare, it has a different aspect, which is the social. So as a human, as elderly people, you might not be accepting technology as easy as new generations does. So if someone gives you a device that you know will be tracked every time, you might not be happy with that. But sometimes if it's good for your health, you will give any information and you will do everything on your benefit. And this is the transition in terms of social impact. And this is what we have been considering in this project analysis and design. So from the left, you can see examples of what type of devices you will confront in IoT, from simple activity trackers like the ones that you buy for $20 or 20 euro, to more specialized devices like blood pressure or even oxygen sensors that are not as easy, or glucose that are more in terms of a sensitiveness in terms of blood management. But all these are examples that can be fit or can be found as IoT device. The difference from the past, because those devices are not new, we can claim, is that now they are connected to a cloud system that can process either real time or after some time of processing by expertise or by medical doctors to analyze this data. Or as one of the examples from Martin before, even yourself. Yeah? The risk in here is what happens if I receive a message from a device that I am having a stroke, according to the analysis. So I will start panicking and probably go into the life cycle of not optimal conditions. But this is also part of IoT for health, educating the community. Because all this data is estimation, all this analysis will be with some certain of rates of error, the same here error that human has when do a prescription and they decide to repeat the test. So this is kind of the models that we are dealing with. From the technology side, of course, we have support from gateways, these magic devices that are called gateways that either provide via Bluetooth technologies or Wi-Fi or other technology like LoRa, 6Fox, long range technologies, and so on. And these middleware platforms. A typical example of a platform, an application running on your mobile phone, an application running on your laptop or in your iPad that in the back has some technologies or some servers, some computers, analyzing, storing the data, processing the data. And then we have what we call on top of these applications. Applications that are coming more from the perspective of specializing the systems. It's not the same to collect my blood pressure and make an analysis on the blood pressure and correlate the blood pressure with my activity and just find that because I was running is normal condition. But if I am sitting all the day in my desk working normally and I receive this difference in heartbeats, it will be a precondition to some problems. So this is the type of application that we are talking in active and healthy aging. Healthy conditions driven by technology, healthy conditions detected by technology. So these are kind of the dimensions. To who we address these situations or these conditions. So we address this one to individuals, as people that we get a device, we get a technology, as we subscribe to a service, or also for organizations. And the typical example is this. I'm not making any commercial now, but it's one of the most well-known, at least in Spain, Sanitas. So it's an insurance company that they also have medical service, they also have a complete portfolio of services, even devices. They are not yet medical devices, but they accept the readings from this one in their own hospitals. So they have taken the first step towards policy making, so they accept this one as a reference. They even provide these devices when you subscribe with them to keep monitoring your conditions. But as I said, it's still a transition. I'm not claiming that this will substitute the medical doctor. It's to complement their activity. Why they need support? Because in Europe we are aging. And aging is two-minded situation. We are living more, we are living longer, which is good. We are enjoying our lives longer, but also we are having problems in terms of capacity. The healthcare system is getting the limit of capacity either from technology side, from capability side, or from cost perspective. Who is paying those services? Taxpayers. And the less people in the industries or in the academia or in working, producing tax, is the less capacity of the health system to support all the services. And this is what's happening in Europe. In Europe, it's a reality, and this is what we are trying to also solve in part of active age in this case. But just keep in mind these 5 columns, which is part of our architecture base model. And let's see how this is perceived by people, yeah? So without going in technical aspects, just look at the blue part on top. This is what every individual see from active and healthy aging and from IoT perspective. On the left, connecting devices, a sensor. Everybody has a notion of a sensor now. Connected sensor. Then we have a router or a gateway, which is even those boxes that we can see everywhere, like this one. And then we have also remote users or local users. Myself looking at my app, or someone else, my family or my doctor, that I have authorized to them to see my data. Running on the cloud. This is kind of a common standard. On the bottom part, we have the infrastructure that supports all this one. So we have the sensor networks, which is a collection of thousands of millions of devices interconnected, and this is when IoT comes as a core area. Then the cloud and the protocols that has been designed and are in the development to support these sensor network infrastructures, plus the internet evolution. Now there is not only one internet, there are many internet forms. Could be wireless, could be wired, could be Bluetooth low energy, could be many others that are complementary to increase the internet. And then we have the hardcore of this internet. So somewhere in the world, there are places that are servers, very high capacity, that are called supercomputing centers that provide all this support to make this communication, this analytics efficient. And all these areas is what we need to deal with in the project of ActiveAge. Sounds huge, sounds broad, but remember, it's a full ecosystem of 49 partners from different areas. The other aspect that is very challenging at the moment is this aspect of privacy and security. It's intended to say GDPR, which is the new regulation that everybody at least knows the cycles, but I will try to explain GDPR in this dialogue. So this is, let's call it Mari. Mari talked with his husband, John, and said, we got data and we would like to use it for active and healthy aging. So they are conscious already, but they don't know how to do it. Then John says, yes, but your data doesn't look like my data. Of course, because she is maybe active, going to make yoga every morning, and he's more standalone guy that make his own stuff and just stay at home, for example. I'm not trying to define new roles in the society, but what I'm saying is examples of how they produce different data, even with the same type of sensors or the same type of technology. Then she said, yeah, but ActiveAge has a data management plan to manipulate all these different data models, different data sets, this different information. And he said, so what? I don't want to share my data if it's not protected. Then she knows that the ActiveAge follows security by design principles approach, meaning GDPR implementation, other regulations. GDPR is only the new one, but there are also other regulatory aspects that are in there since many years back. So all these aspects are considered in GDPR in ActiveAge. And then John says, okay, this is great. So I hear that there is also possibility to be forgotten in case I want to remove my data or I want to transfer my data to another provider because I am tired to use this provider. And she said, yes, ActiveAge is preparing tools and security enable elements to do that. And this is precisely what we want from the community. Convince them, educate them to use the technology, to use the platform, and be part of an ecosystem, which is part of Europe. So as I mentioned before, this is not a research project, it's an innovation project that we are following the Active and Healthy Aging initiative from Europe to improve all this technology. And hopefully we can engage with more industries, with more stakeholders, inclusive in Ireland, to have our own cell of active agers as a person that are part of this ActiveAge community. What exactly is happening in ActiveAge from the point of view of integrating systems, data, technologies? There are 4 domains. Actually, it's 5 domains, but the 5th one is the security. It's IoT on the left, top left. Well-being from the AHA perspective. Remember, before getting prescribed, before getting any problems with health, you want to stay healthy longer. Then healthcare, because of course, cannot be stopped. It's a consequence of aging. We will get sick at some point. We will need prescription. We will need help. And then the other side, we have the security part, which is obviously all those standards that manipulates device security to not be hacked, to don't be modified from the original functions. Security from the point of view of platforms, that nobody will intervene or corrupt the system to break the security of either the data of the device. And of course, the data records that are already in the system. Yeah? Traditionally, we know that this is This is a major problem. And in the back, the fifth area is GDPR compliance in that one. So how we are dealing with this and how this is related with the topic, with the title of my presentation. So those devices don't talk each other. So essentially, I have some Sanitas in here, I have an iPhone or an iOS, and they don't talk each other. Unless there is a high-level application that interconnect them, but this is almost impossible. Why? Because we're breaking the business model of the company, right? But with ActiveEdge, what we have achieved, and this is already an achievement, we have collect multiple data models from different providers, which are part of our ecosystem, our deployment sites, because they are convinced that the next level or next evolution of these healthcare applications and IoT is sharing data. So they have agreed to develop these interfaces to their products with security and privacy protection by design. Okay, this is the premise from them to say, I will open my system, I will share specific data if it's encrypted, if it's protected, and it's not biased to be stolen or stolen. And of course, there are many standards that we are implementing, we are developing, and we are following from the semantic perspective, from the protocol perspective, from the, obviously, platform perspective. So we have been pioneers since 2012 developing IoT platforms from the interoperability perspective, from the integration perspective. So we have OpenIoT, we have Vitalos that even works as an operating system. And we are also the main contributors on the standards in W3C to define these dialogues. Dialogues in the sense that these devices can communicate and share information. And not only the devices, also the platforms and also the applications. All these are just examples how these relations are created. In here, every box represents a piece of information. It's a container that can have information from any of the individuals. And these relationships or these lines represent relationships, establishment to exchange data in different domains. Here's how you can see an example of how different domains for smart cities can be interexchanged with data from sensor devices. It's just to provide an example in how this is built. And of course, the implementation of this one resides in a technology called bridges. So a bridge is an analogy of connecting 2 points that are isolated or separated. Those points can be lakes of data. Now it's a very common term, data lakes. And other ones could be a platform services or applications that runs in devices like iOS and Android. And iOS and Android are not compatible technologies, but via ActiveEdge we can interconnect with 2 bridges in each technology. What is important to highlight is not open access. Yeah? By saying that I have a bridge to your technology doesn't mean that I have the key to your house to enter and do whatever I want. It's part of your system to allow me to see what I want to use in the bridge. And this is part of the negotiations. This is part of the ecosystem building and integration work in ActiveEdge. And for example, harmful information that cannot be shared like an image, like a personal data, this is something that some systems are not allowing to do, but they are providing their own ecosystem. But harmless information like temperature in your room, which is not really sensitive in terms of privacy, could be shared across different domains. And it's very useful to have this information for maybe applications in terms of health conditions. If I am suffering from a flu or I have some allergies to some pollen or some ácaros, then the temperature might increase this level of sensibility. So all these examples comes in the case of these use cases. And then what we have followed, and this is precisely what I wanted to emphasize today, not from a technical point of view, but more from the procedural point of view, from the mechanisms that we implement, is how we came to this language, how we came to this AHA, active and healthy aging language, which is obviously the following the methodologies of having activity recognition, patterns definitions, technical environments, and also the performance considerations in terms of technology, considering also the business part. As I mentioned before, it's an innovation action, and we have business-driven problems. Then we create these physical models and logical models, and then we are in the process of deploying this one in a physical infrastructure, which is called data management system or information system. The idea of the objective will be to have these conceptual frameworks deployed in a database or in a distributed computing center to be exchanged in a secure manner. For that one, we have what we call the Active Internet of Things Exchange Suite, so which is called IoTs by acronym. And IoTs is this type of a sub-platform or framework that you can install as an app. The idea will be just you can install an agent to IoTs, and then you can start to share the information. You can select the information that you want. Of course, in the context of GDPR, we are thinking, and you will see it in years to come, in the next year, the consent. So you have to provide the consent before anything to start to share this data, and you can select with who you can do that one. This is the shape this is taking now at the moment. There will be bridges for every deployment site, as you can imagine, because as I mentioned before, every deployment site has their own technology, their own specialty. And the advantage is that entrepreneurs, scientists, people, creators or developers can access those bridges in a way of a subscription. Then you can get access to this information. Similar to this one is nothing novelty, it's more like innovating. Watson technology was mentioned before, Alexa, Siri, they do the same. So they have an API that gets to the cloud, they get the information, and they use that as for analytics. But in our case, we will use it for active and healthy aging applications. So it's kind of the same philosophy. But instead of using data from the cloud, we will also use data from the devices. This is the major innovation and aspect. Instead of waiting or have to go to the cloud and process everything in the cloud, you might get a local device, which is called edge computing, a technology that was represented in the architecture that can help on that one. So essentially, as I mentioned before, this is an experience. I'm not claiming here we are the pioneers in this innovation, but we are driving the innovation towards the deployment sites. They are the innovators. So what our contribution as a country, as Ireland, is to drive the management systems, the information system exchange. As a project is to incentivize the education, the training, the understanding, the deployment of the technology, and of course the activation of the ecosystems, because at the moment there is no such ecosystem in Europe. It's only an initiative in Europe, in the Commission, and then it's growing to the point that has to be aware, has to create validation, has to create an ecosystem around these solutions, and the most important, acceptance and impact in the society. So the day after tomorrow, people can say, I am happy to carry my device, I am taking care of my health, and I will be longer and better because of the consequence of the use of the technology. And the privacy concerns and the security concerns are now a hype, but privacy is a human attribute. Trust is a human attribute, and we are trusted people until we get affected. But remember, in the past, we never concerned about where my data goes. And it's not because we are not conscious of that, it's because we get benefits against that. So how many of you have gone into the airports or into the shops, and just by getting Wi-Fi access, you provide your email, your name, your age, and your location, where are you from, your country sometimes. And nothing happened. Of course, now the difference is that we are getting more conscious on the benefits of doing that. And this is what precisely the GDPR regulates. It's not to provide, it's not to avoid, or it's not to forbidden people to use the data. It's to distribute the benefits of using that data. In your own benefit as an individual, in the collective benefit as a society, because the more data, the more analysis we can have, the more tendencies in the society, and particularly in healthcare, we can identify more tendencies or pandemics or more problems in healthcare. So with this one I finalize. I don't know if I have time or we have time for a couple of questions. If not, I will be here until the end, or just drop me an email. I think I forgot to put my email somewhere, but it's just my name, martin.serrano@insightcenter.org. Thank you very much.